Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are checking out, yes, yet another Mattel Jurassic World Dominion set, as there are just so many new figures coming out from the Mattel line that we are just being flooded with them, and this is one that I was actually really excited about. This is the, obviously, Claire and Dilophosaurus set, and in my opinion, this looked to be one of the best Dilophosaurus figures that Mattel has released so far, and I can definitely say I still feel the same way about it here in hand. It looks really good in the packaging as far as the actual paintwork and everything goes, as well as the sculpt. It might be one of the nicest, actually, painted Mattel figures that we've had as far as this size range goes, especially when it comes to the Dilophosaurus, except we don't have nail paint. Oh man, that's so frustrating. But outside of that, we do also have a brand new Claire figure, which looks really good. It's nice to have a Dominion-style Claire, especially because we didn't have all that many Claires when Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom had come out. So it's pretty cool to have some more now in this Dominion line, and she's got a lot of catching up to do to reach the amount of Owens that we had. We also have a gun there, as well as what appears to be a tracker, I believe, is what it is stated to be. And then we have the Venom for the Dilophosaurus. The box art is your standard as far as Dominion box art goes. And then here on the back, you can see again another image. Well, if my camera would focus on it, there we go. You can see an image of the Dilophosaurus as well as Claire, and then the other set here that is out currently like this, which is the Velociraptor Beta set we have already reviewed here. I will say that as far as the version here on the back goes, that definitely looks quite a bit different compared to what we actually got. Like, that Dilophosaurus looks really cool. The coloration of the frill looks absolutely awesome, and there's even some alternate coloration in the crest. I don't think I saw that. No, not really. On this one, you can see like there's a yellow that runs across the crest. I don't see that really here on this version, and the coloration of the frill definitely looks different compared to the promotional images, but that by no means is saying it looks bad, because if you ask me, it still looks great. So let's pop this out of the box and check it out. So here is our Claire figure. Stands nicely. We've also got our Dilophosaurus figure. Also stands nicely, which is nice to see, because in the beta set, beta did not stand for me at all. We've also got the gun, we've got the Venom, and we've also got the tracker right there. So quite a bit included with this set. Pretty much the same, I would say, roughly, as what we had included with the beta set, except as opposed to having a fox, we have Venom for our Dilophosaurus. That's pretty much my takeaway as far as this goes in comparison to the other one, but I am absolutely loving that Dilophosaurus. That is just a really nice looking version, and I don't know how close it is to what it looks like in Dominion until we actually see it in Dominion. We only saw that brief glimpse in the trailer, but it definitely looks great as far as the coloration they've chosen for this one compared to previous Dilophosaurus releases. And Claire actually looks awesome. Like, that might be one of my favorite Claire figures I think that we've had so far. She just looks really good. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at both of these right now. So starting with our Claire figure, you can see that as far as Claire Deering goes, she looks really good in figure form this time around for the Dominion line. Her head looks pretty nice. Her likeness is fairly close to what Claire looks like, maybe not exact, but you can see some nice coloration there for the lips, as well as the eyes and eyebrows, so some nice paintwork there, or decals. I'm not sure how that was all applied, but it looks good. We've also got some really nicely sculpted hair. I love the waviness in the hair, adding some nice life to the figure rather than having just stagnant generic hair. They have done a good job of adding in very nice, very fine detail to the hair, and again, making it look a lot more lifelike than it probably could have. You can also see that as we move down, you can even see like some tensing there in her neck, as well as some definition here in the chest. As we lead down here into her shirt, you can see that again we have like some slight wrinkles and stuff throughout the course of the shirt, which is definitely a plus. We have a jacket on Claire, which is meant to be like this, I think, is part of the jacket, but it actually looks like it potentially is not connected. It's a little hard to tell. I don't know if you could take that off. It's definitely tough to tell, but it looks like there is the potential to maybe take the jacket off, although I'm not going to try. You can see that we have, again, some nice detailing within the jacket as well, as we have like wrinkles and creases and everything through the course of the jacket, which is also a plus. Again, a lot of life added to the human figures from Mattel. You can see that we have a belt on her, just like we had a belt on Owen, and the actual belt itself is painted, although the straps aren't really painted so much on the pants of Claire going around the belt like we saw on Owen, the belt itself does have some alternate paintwork. And as we move down, you can see she is wearing some nice black pants. They have a little bit of a glossy look to them, and they also, again, sport like wrinkles and creases and everything through the course of the pants, continuing to allow her to look extremely lifelike and realistic. I love how highly detailed the human figures are. And then as we move down, we've got some boots down here for Claire. Unfortunately, the laces or anything are not painted. It would have been cool to see that, but that's just, I think, asking for a little bit too much. But they are really nicely painted, very precise as far as the paintwork goes, and the sculpt, again, looks great. As far as Claire goes, as far as the articulation of Claire, we have articulation in the head and neck region. Very nicely done. We also have articulation in the arms, can go swivel all the way around, go up, down, all of that. The elbow is definitely stiff right now. There we go. We've got the elbow bent, and you can also swivel that if you'd like to torture her and break her arm. We have the swivel here in the waist, as well as articulation there in the hips, and then the knee as well, and the knee can swivel. So quite a bit of articulation for our Claire. Definitely really like that figure. We also have our tracker right here, and you can see that we have like a little decal or a sticker applied to that. So again, even though the sculpt is actually really nice, there's not really too much paintwork or anything going on except for the screen itself of the tracker, but it looks really good. You can see the back of it as well. Looks very nice as far as a detailing standpoint goes. We as well have the venom for our Dilophosaurus. And what's shocking to me about the venom is we don't really have like a translucent look like we have had in the past on the venom, but it looks pretty much like the same venom that we have had from Mattel prior. Just nothing more than a very dark coloration, and there looks to be like some yellow speckles here and there on it. And then we have the weapon that Claire is yielding. You can see it looks really cool. Again, another instance where some paintwork would have made it look a little bit cooler, although I really wouldn't have too much paintwork on something like this, I guess. But maybe an alternate tone of color other than a green, but it still looks pretty nice. And then our Dilophosaurus, and I don't know if this is the exact same sculpt as previous Dilophosaurus of this style have been, but it looks honestly like it is. It really does look like the same sculpt that we've had from Dilophosaurus in the past. And to kind of get an idea of whether that is the case or not, here is a previously released Mattel Dilophosaurus, and you can definitely see that sculpt-wise it looks pretty much the same or very similar. You know, I'm actually starting to notice some differences, so maybe it's not. No, definitely. It's really, really hard to tell. It actually looks like the newer one's head might be slightly larger than the older one, and I notice, like, as far as like running along the jawline here, there's more defined scales running along right there, whereas we don't see those quite as much on this one. And even the frill looks like it's slightly different as far as the sculpt goes. Let's check out the bodies of them. It definitely feels like this one, just in general, is bulkier than the older one. It looks like it's potentially the same sculpt, I think. Yeah, it really does look like the same sculpt. The tail's in the same position and everything, but it looks like they have made it a little bit larger. If you look here, the length of the tail is definitely a little shorter on the older one. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is actually the same sculpt, but they've increased the size a bit for this newest version, this newest release, which is actually pretty darn cool to see a slightly larger version. But since it's the same sculpt as the previous ones, that means we don't really need to go over the sculpt aspect of the figure. Basically, we need to just look at what's different on this one compared to previous releases, and that would be the paint application. So as far as the head goes, you can see some really nice dark tones, like a really dark pavement gray bordering on a black for the majority of the face. But then you have a nice greenish area here in the palette. It has a very glossy look, which I'm not super huge on, but at the same time it actually does kind of look cool. You have a very nicely painted eye with a black pupil nicely placed, and you can see some alternate coloration there in the crest as you have some really nice reds, but you do also have some of those yellows like we saw on the promotional images, but it's not quite as abrupt of a transition on this, which I think actually looks better. I feel like it looks more natural this way, and you can see that same thing over here for the crest on this side. Same deal for the paintwork of the face. Nicely placed eye yet again. The mouth is in an open position. It is not articulated at all. You can see the teeth are all sculpted very nicely, but they're also nicely painted with a nice yellowish coloration, like an off-white bordering on a light yellow. And we have a purple tone of color for the tongue and the inside of the mouth, which looks really good. Runs the entire inside of the mouth as well, which is definitely a plus up there on the upper jaw as well. and it does sport a nice gloss coat. As you move back into the frill of our Dilophosaurus, you can see we have quite a bit of different tones of color, as we have some really nice red designs, but we also have a really cool mixture of orange and yellows in the background of those reds. And then you can also see like some blacks down here on the bottom of the frill, as well as up here on the tip at the top, which is definitely a really cool addition, and that kind of runs the course here, running along and outlining the outer edge of the frill, making the frill really, really nice looking. Like, it really jumps out at you and definitely has a beautiful paint job to it. And then once you take a look at it from the front, like, look at that. That is absolutely awesome. So Mattel really did a good job, I think, on the paintwork of this Dilophosaurus, especially in the frill. And the frill has a really nice gloss coat added to it, so that frill shines beautifully there. Absolutely awesome looking. And then as you move back here into the body, you can continue to see how that dark coloration, that kind of like pavement gray or like a variation of black, runs along the top of the Dilophosaurus, kind of like leaks down a little bit here and there. We have a nice shade of green for the majority of the body. You can see again no nail paint, but as you move down the course of the figure, you have some splotches of that darker coloration in the thigh of the Dilophosaurus. You can see it kind of leaking down over here as well, before completely overtaking the tail, and it is completely that coloration. So the fact that we have coloration that runs the entire course of the figure all the way out onto the tail, like, it just looks so much nicer. Such a drastic improvement over some other figures that don't get that treatment, that does not get the awesome coloration out onto the tail. And there are some speckles. We have like some yellow speckles you can see here showing up every so often, but again, the only thing this one really needed, I think, would have been some nail paint, and this would have been one of the top Mattel figures that they've released in quite a while when it comes to paint application. But regardless, it is an absolutely awesome Dilophosaurus. I forgot to go over the articulation on the Dilophosaurus. I did that for Claire, but forgot the Dilophosaurus. So again, you do have the articulation in the frill. You can extend it, or of course keep it here at the side. I wish there was a better way to do it where this frill was non-existent when it was closed. Obviously, the Amber collection found a way to do it, but this one, not so much. As far as the arm articulation goes, we only have forward and back. It's not like some of the other figures where we can go out away from the body. Again, further showing that this is one of the older sculpts from Mattel, just reused and upsized. As far as the leg articulation, same deal. Just forward and back, we can't go out away from the body at all, but it moves very nicely. And then we have the articulation of the tail, maybe? I don't know, actually. I don't think we do. It looks like we should, but if we do, it's insanely stiff on mine and is not going to move. We do also have the fax app code here if we can get it open. It's kind of hard to get that sometimes. Okay, it was really stiff, like it was stuck in there. You've got the really cool Jurassic logo here on the back, and then over here we have the actual scan code for you to add this to your collection. Again, it's definitely an eyesore as far as that goes, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, you can really see that there's a nice gap there, and if you're going to like repaint one of these and kind of like seal up all the seams and everything to make it look more model-like rather than toy-like, that's going to be a pretty significant sealing area, but it still doesn't look horrible. Not as bad as the Roar Attack figures seams looked on their action feature buttons. As far as a size goes, for a height on Claire, she's going to end up right in the 3 3/4 inch range, or around 9.5 centimeters, following the normal Mattel, standard human size range. For the Dilophosaurus, we're going to close the frill, but for a length, you're looking at about it's really hard to tell because it's kind of, the frill's getting in the way. I'd say about the 6-inch range, or around 15 centimeters, maybe a little over. Not perfect as far as that measurement goes. And for the height, the top of the frill, you're looking at about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Dilophosaurus and Claire set. And you can see that as far as these figures go, size-wise, they're pretty much the standard when it comes to Mattel. This is another one of those sets where I feel like we really don't need very many size comparisons, because especially with the Dilophosaurus, we've had so many of them out previously, but it's nice to see that again we have a slightly larger version with this one, which we saw earlier in a comparison. But otherwise, the sizes aren't all that different from previous Mattel releases. So this is another really fun Mattel Jurassic World Dominion set, and I like this one better than the Velociraptor beta set, I think, and it's just because the paintwork of the Dilophosaurus is so darn nice, and I feel like the Claire figure is nicer than the Owen. We've had so many Owens, it's really hard to get excited about an Owen, and we've had a few Claires, but not that many, so it is pretty easy to get excited about a new Claire figure, especially one that looks so drastically different from older Claire figures, and this one definitely does. I think they've done a very good job of sculpting her out, as well as giving her a lot of different coloration to her outfit. You can see her pants are a different color from her shirt, her jacket, really bright coloration for her hair, her boots, everything. There's just a lot of nice, really appealing looking coloration and tones of color on her. And again, very nice, very precise paintwork. So the Claire figure is really nice. Then we have all of the extras as far as like the weapon and the tracker and everything. They're pretty cool, nothing amazing, but definitely fun additions to the set. And then, in my opinion, the star of the show is the Dilophosaurus, and this Dilophosaurus is definitely one of my personal favorite Dilophosaurus so far from Mattel, because the coloration is really nice. Again, so many nice, really beautiful looking tones of color in the frill area of the Dilophosaurus. It's probably the nicest coloration on a frill of this style Dilophosaurus we've seen, and the fact that we have color that runs all the way out onto the tail, it just makes such a huge difference on the figure. And as a whole, I would say, again, definitely one of the most appealing Dilophosaurus from Mattel. The only thing I really feel like this one needed would have been nail paint, and I would have been a-okay with everything on this figure. So this is definitely a set that, in my opinion, you really got to pick up. If you are a fan of Dilophosaurus, this is probably one of the nicest ones we've had, so I would certainly pick this up if I were you, and add this to your Mattel collection when you do in fact find this again at Walmart. A huge thank you goes out to my good friend Jason Litz, who was able to acquire this and hook me up with it again with the Velociraptor beta set to help me get some of these a little bit earlier than my area probably would. So a huge thank you goes out to him. Make sure you guys check your local Walmart, pick this up if you can find it, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.